Okay, let's just quickly review what we've done so far with the VBA code. So first of all, if you want to open up the Visual Basic Editor, you can use this, or you can also do it through the ribbon at the top of Excel. And that will give you the place where you can put the code. Now I think you have to do Insert New Module to, insert a new module to put your code there. Okay. He talked about this. This forces us to be very careful in our programming, and if we have this set up, then we can't use variables without declaring them. Okay. And then he has this do it again subroutine, so that means a program called do it again that he's writing, and that was very short. In fact, it was really just one line, and it tells it to repeat, or maybe actually, yeah, I think it tells it to repeat in 1 hour and 1 minute, and it tells what to repeat. It's going to have this repeat, and this is another program, that short program that he's going to write and show us shortly. So is that the one? GetNewData, yeah. So now we're looking at that program. It's called GetNewData, and we're going to write that, and I'm going to come back to that in a second, but let's just go on and see a little bit more about how this is going to work out. So after he does the GetNewData, which, as I said, just goes back to Amazon and gets a new web page, or gets the same web page with new information on it. So that's this code, all of this code here to do that. Now he's also going to write a function called the getRank function, and I think that's just going to get the ranking of his book on Amazon. So it's just going to look through the data that he collected in the GetNewData function, right? The GetNewData function pastes all this Amazon web page code into his Excel sheet, and then he's just going to have to search through that Excel sheet to get the rank. So he just has to find out the it's like this. There's a there's a word called there's a phrase like this in the Amazon page and in his sheet, and he just wants to find it. It's just the same thing as if you do, when you're searching for something, you go and you do, let's see, does it work here? Yeah, I'm just go up here and I'm going to search for a word. Basically, he's just doing the same thing as that in his Excel sheet. He just needs to find this particular place to go, and then he's going to go to the next number after that, and that's going to be the ranking, and he's going to get the ranking that way. I don't know if you understood what I just said, but it's very, very simple. The idea is very simple. It's not that hard. The code is not that too hard, but okay. And then get units left, that's just another thing. He's going to search through his Excel sheet to sometimes, let's see, I'll go to an Amazon page and see if it has it. So here's his book, right? And he wants to get the ranking. Where is the ranking here? Well, I could do the same thing. Actually, all he does is, let's see, I think all I need to do is find this in the page. That's all he's really doing. So I just go here and do find. Can you see that? No, you can't see that, but I'm doing find. No, that didn't quite work. Well, why not? I didn't get the space. Didn't catch the space. Let me put find with the space there. Okay, there. Now you see, there it is. This is what he wants. Now, see, we're going to download this whole page, so we're going to have this, and he's just going to look for that, and then here's his ranking. Seems to have gone up a lot. He's doing well. So that's all we're doing, is just capturing this number. Now, what was the next thing we were doing? This one, get units left. Let's see. Maybe there's a little string for that also. actually getting that. But there must be something, some little... Well, maybe, anyway, I don't know, but, you know, somewhere on this page it might say only 4 books left in stock or something like that. I don't see it here, but that's what he's looking for in this next function. So that's what this is going to do. It's going to find that number. And what else? Refresh sheets. I guess he's going to refresh his workbooks regularly so that he's getting more data. I guess he's doing that every hour. Okay. What else is there here? And that's it. That's the whole code. So it's not really conceptually very complicated at all. But we have to go through it. So let's go back. So we did this one, and remember this is just to get the next row. And then he says, I do have to tell VBA which cell to regard as the active cell. And remember, he's working in this sheet. Remember, he's working in this sheet here, stats, where he just downloaded all that, all the text on that page. And so he's trying to indicate which cell to regard as the active cell. So he says, I do that by citing the summary worksheet. Sorry, it's not working in that sheet. This is on the summary sheet. So this is on this sheet, which I don't have anything on there. But, okay, so he has to say this workbook means the workbook where the code is. So use that. We're going to write into that workbook. So even though we may have other workbooks open, it won't be confused because it will know that it's the workbook where the code is written to use that. Like there might be another workbook open also that also has a summary sheet. So if it didn't have this there, then it might start writing to the other workbook summary sheet, which we don't want. So anyway, so that's that. And we have to say sheets summary. Now sheets is, as I explained before, is a collection, and it's a kind of a property of this workbook. So in other words, you can think of it like this: workbooks have sheets. Now the fact that there's a little s here at the end usually means in Visual Basic for applications in VBA, which is what we're using, means that it's not just a regular property, but it's a whole collection. It's not just like a single thing, it's a whole collection. And if it's a whole collection, then you have to say which object from the collection you're referring to, you're interested in. And you do that by using the parentheses and the quotation marks and then the name of the sheet that you want, like that. Okay, so now this tells us, okay, so now this tells us that we're on the summary sheet. And then we need to go to a specific cell. So, and remember we said that this is the last cell, sorry, the last row, or sorry, this is the number of rows in the whole workbook. So this means the last row and the first column. So we're going all the way down to the very bottom of the spreadsheet. So in other words, we're referring to that cell. Notice this is cells. So this is also should be a collection. This is almost always true that when it ends with an S, it's a collection. So then we're talking about all the cells in the worksheet, and then but then we're specifying the one that we want, because we don't want all of them, by doing this. Okay, and then this is also a property, and we want to go basically from the bottom all the way up to the top. Means to the first we go all the way up to the cell which is still blank, but the cell above it will have something in it. Okay, and then so that gives us For example, if I wasn't working on this sheet, but if I was working on this sheet, what I would be doing is going all the way to the bottom. So going all the way, I can't seem to get it to go all the way to the very bottom, but like go to here, for example, and then go, I think if I hit Control and right arrow, yeah, it takes me to that. So that's the cell that has something in it. Right, okay, that's why I made a little mistake. So that's the cell that has something in it, the first cell that has something in it. So that is going to be here. That's what this is going to do. And then I'm going to get the row of that. So that's a property of that cell, the row number of that cell, and I'm going to add 1 to it. So now, so now next row is pointing to where? To the row 746, right? Okay, that should be fairly clear. Okay, so he says, I do have to tell VBA which cell to regard as the active cell. I do that by citing the summary worksheet and directing VBA's attention to that worksheet's final row. First column. I start things out with this workbook just in case I have more than one workbook open and some other workbook is active at the time that the code starts to run. So like I said that before. This workbook object, so this is an object, specifies the workbook that contains the code that is running. We said that already. Having found the next row to write in, I put the current date and time into the summary worksheet in the first column of that row. So what he means is that he's going to put the date and time. So here, he's going to put the date and time, the next date and time, into there. Okay, so he gets this and he puts it in the summary sheet in the first column of that row by writing with this workbook sheet's summary. So this is kind of a shorthand. Okay, he really wants to write. So this is the actual code in the code editor. So this is we just finished looking at this line. No, yeah. I guess. No. Well, it's a little bit different, but anyway, right here is what he's talking about. So he says, with this workbook sheet summary, next rank equals get rank this. So you see here, this is kind of long, isn't it? So this is just kind of a shorthand. Instead of writing this workbook sheet summary, this, and then this workbook sheet summary, this, and this way he doesn't have to keep writing this part over and over again. He says with this, then this, all of this refers to this sheet, and the end of that, and all the way down to here, that's true. Okay, then finally it says end with. So the with starts here, defining that we're working with this summary sheet, and we're doing these things to it, and then we stop referring to the summary sheet here. Okay, so let's see. The with statement initiates a block of code in which objects that are preceded by a dot, such as .cells.row, are deemed by VBA to belong to the object named in the with block. So let's see, .cells. Where was that? So here, for example, this one says .cells, right? So that means that, but you can't just write .cells. That doesn't make sense. But it's not really just .cells. It's this workbook sheet summary .cells. But we don't have to keep writing this workbook sheet summary every time. Like here, this says .activate. But it really means this workbook sheet summary .activate. But we don't. I don't want to keep writing that over and over again. So I'm going to be doing a lot of different stuff to this sheet, this summary sheet. So I'm just going to put all those things inside this kind of what we call a with block, inside that with block, and say all of it is referring to this. Okay, that's the idea. So once again, the with statement initiates a block of code in which objects that are preceded by a dot, such as this, are deemed by VBA to belong to the object named in the with block. Here that's the worksheet name summary. Okay, so next rank equals get rank stats in. Okay, now again, this is a function that we haven't written yet, but I did talk about it a few minutes ago. So we're going to use this function to figure out in the stats page. Remember, we have a stats page. We have a stats page here. In the stats page, find this phrase. This phrase means a blank space and then the word in. Remember, that's going to show us where the ranking for his book is. So he says, to explain this code, he says the getRank procedure is called with the name of the query sheet named stats. So this is a procedure. That means it's a function. So it takes arguments inside the brackets. Now it's hard to know, a little bit hard to know, because Visual Basic, especially Visual Basic with applications, it's hard. Usually, in almost all other languages, if you have parentheses after something like this, so you have the name here, and then parentheses and parentheses, almost always that means it's a function or a method. But in Visual Basic with applications, unfortunately, because of the history of the way the language developed, like it used to, Visual Basic and Visual Basic applications came from a language a long time ago called BASIC. And in that language they didn't have a lot of different, this was a long time ago when keyboards weren't so elaborate, didn't have as many keys on the keyboard. And so they didn't have so many options for what to put here. So actually they didn't even, I don't think they used this for functions. So when they developed Visual Basic as opposed to BASIC, they kind of kept that idea. Or they, anyway, so it's because of historical reasons. But for most other languages, whenever you have this, it means it's a method, or I'm sorry, a function, or a sub-procedure. But in Visual Basic with application, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It could be a property, and we saw some examples of properties actually. This is actually a collection, but it's a property. We call this a property. So it's kind of confusing in this language. Not very. It's kind of messy and not very clear. But anyway, we have to deal with it. So anyway, so this actually is a method, or I'm sorry, a sub-procedure. So sub-procedures can take arguments, and this one is taking arguments again. How many arguments is it taking? Well, there's one comma, so there's an argument on either side of the comma. So the argument on the left side tells me what sheet to look in, and to get, and then this tells me what to look for. So this function needs to know what sheet you want to look in, and it needs to know what you want to look for. And so we're telling it to look in this sheet and look for this. Okay, and then it's going to find the stat. I'm sorry, it's going to find the rank in there and assign it to here. Okay, but we don't know how this works yet. We haven't seen the code for this yet, but you can understand what it's supposed to do. So he says the getRank procedure is called with the name of the query sheet, named stats, and the string that, which helps getRank locate the sales ranking that has been retrieved by the query for the statistics book. The getRank procedure, which is actually a function written in VBA, so he says it's a function, he writes it later, is discussed later in this section. The value returned by that function, so what it's going to give us is the rank, and we're going to assign that to here. Okay? And not only that, it looks like he's going to do this next. After he does that, then he's going to take that number and put it in here. So he's going to put it in column 2 of the next row, in other words, of the next blank row, which is exactly what we want. In other words, he's going to do this, and then we're going to have to stop here and continue. He's going to put it in column B, so he's going to put it here. So this is the rank. See how his rank has gotten much, much better. Now, back at this time, that was 2 years ago. Oh, maybe that's a different book. I don't know. I think that's a different book, actually. But anyway, the rank was not so good compared to the rank for this this book that we just checked. Okay, anyway, so he's going to put the ranking here. Okay? With that code. Okay, we better stop here and start with a new video.